I've been thinking about this one for a while, and I figured today is as good as any to talk about Morales. That guy from season 1 of The Walking Dead who returned in season 8. This is my problem with that. Let's dive in. So, if you've been a fan of the show for as long as I have, you'd know that Morales came back to The Walking Dead in season 8 as one of the saviors. This is after he parted ways with Rick in the first season to go meet up with his family. Now we get the full story from Morales, albeit the abridged version. He didn't even make it to where he was going, and his family was killed. His children and his wife. He was on the brink of madness when the saviors basically saved him. And since then, his loyalty lies with Negan. No qualms or questions about how things are done. He is a full-fledged savior, and that's it. An officer friendly from up the road a ways isn't going to change that. It's very clear, and he makes it very clear the whole time. The biggest problem that I have with this is it's very simple, right? We know that the characters themselves, the main characters we've been following for, 9 seasons now, but at least for 5 seasons between when they left Morales and got to Alexandria, they traveled an incredibly great distance to reach Alexandria. And now we're supposed to just believe that Morales was traveling the exact same way. Well, what was even the point of him splitting up if that was the case, right? He might as well have gone with Rick, and they could have found his family together, they would have all been safe, and then no one would have died. That's my first issue with Morales' return. And the second one is very simple, right? The way he's used. Now, I get that The Walking Dead is about shock value. Right? When someone dies, we're supposed to be shocked by who was chosen. Unless they're annoying pieces of crap. And in that case, we celebrate that they're dead. If they're a villain, we're really happy. And that's why I think a lot of people were upset that Negan wasn't killed, because we wanted to see him die. But when someone like Morales shows up after years and years of speculation and fans wondering about what could have happened to him and to his family, it just feels like it's being used to really just shock us. And while I agree it does shock us, right, the simple fact is that he's killed so quickly, the shock value wears off almost as quickly as we get it. And then we're just left with this corpse that Daryl killed. Now I'll put it like this. I think Morales was used in such a shock value only type of way, he could have been utilized later on and even had his own story arc as a main villain. A kind of, this is what it looks like to actually fight with people we used to care about. It's an avenue that I don't think the show has really explored before. And to be honest, I think doing it with characters who are part of the Saviors, it's not doing this type of story with characters we've cared about before any serious justice. Now, I can't think of any other characters that have left because they usually either die instead of parting ways, or they leave and we just never hear about them anymore. But I can't think of any others, which is pretty sad. I think that, to be honest with you, it would be incredibly interesting and a really good avenue for the show itself to explore and definitely provide more humanity to the characters that we haven't seen for quite a while, right? This is one of those avenues where it seems to me that Gimple himself rushed to get as much done as he could before moving on to a more senior position. And because of that, he basically tried to put in everything he could without thinking about how it could actually be fleshed out. Now, I'm not saying in a Morales-led story arc, he would have had to be the only villain that we were gunning for, right? Like the governor or Negan, we didn't need Morales to be that kind of big head honcho bad guy. Because those guys, the governor and Negan, they were head honchos in their own right. And the audience, they weren't focused on any other big bad guys. But imagine a season, or even just half a season arc, right? Where we were focused on 2 major villains, not just one. Now let me explain this just a little bit more. Because I think they were trying to build to this at the end of season 5 and throughout season 6, right? But the whole thing was poorly executed. And who am I talking about when I say this? The Wolves. They were being built up as this crazy, interesting group of radicals who thought that killing someone and letting them turn was setting them free. That was intense. It was new, it was innovative, something that we didn't expect, and we got this cult-like group, especially before we got to the Junkyard people, right? We didn't see this happening, and they were less than impressive, right? The Junkyard people were not the greatest, let's be honest. But all in all, the Wolves had so much potential. And again, I feel like Gimple decided to rush through, and he wasted what could have been, and how they could have been utilized, right? Wouldn't it have been interesting if the Wolves were around, and we'd forgotten all about them, thought they were all but dead, and then say when Negan came around, or now, especially with the Whisperers, right? Our heroes had run-ins with the Wolves. They're back after 6 years, because that's the time jump that we've gotten, and with a larger number of people, a bigger group, and a greater cult-like mentality. Just imagine for 1 second, right, having 2 major threats for our heroes to handle. it would actually be chaos. I feel like, just imagine if that second threat came from someone who knew the group back in the day, who at least had an emotional edge, an emotional air of security over them, someone that we didn't want to see that person die, but we knew that our group of people has to survive, right? Now, the problem with that, though, is that someone like Morales only really... He knew Carol and Daryl, really. That's pretty much it. Everyone else he knew is dead or has either disappeared. So here we are, right? To me, it looks like we've basically glossed over what could have been such a great story arc. A group of villains that could have been annoying and maybe even treated like the new Negan-esque group. Except, not as crazy as Negan, but still, right? We could have gotten a great story arc there. Unfortunately, I don't think that we'll ever get a story like that. One where we see more depth for characters like Morales, where we really learn, more about them, and what they like, and what they're about, and what they're going through. That's the biggest issue I kind of had with Morales coming back. We got a character who revealed he was crazy, but we didn't get any more depth or backstory or anything. He explained it, that's fine, that's great, that's nice, okay? But we didn't get enough to really make us care about Morales now. Right, we cared more about Rick and him surviving than we did about Morales. And yes, it was shocking to see him there, but who cares? Right? Daryl took care of him and no one even said another word. And Daryl himself didn't care about him. Just watch that scene again and you'll see Daryl doesn't care. He knew who he was, so what? Now, don't get me wrong. When I say Morales coming back was just shock value, it was a surprise. 100% it was a surprise, but it was nothing more than that, right? And after the initial shock, it was pretty much nothing. Then they just decided they're going to discard his character, and that's it. Goodbye. See you later. And I think that was the biggest wasted opportunity that we had throughout the whole series. This character who disappeared, and then he could have come back and been something great. Now, honestly, I think that the potential to do that in Fear the Walking Dead, although I haven't seen the first half, is there with one of the kids that was left behind in season 1. The kid that basically knew what was going on. I can't remember what his name is, but that kid, there's a potential for him to come back and be an enemy. But anyways, guys, that's basically it for this video. Now, if you enjoyed the way Morales was reintroduced to the show, leave a like and let me know what you think. Should AMC have brought back a character just as quickly as they let him go? Or should they have done it, they just left him alone completely and kept the audience wondering what was going on? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up by hitting that like button. Make sure to subscribe and check out other content on the channel, but most importantly, get outside, spread some peace, spread some love, and as for me, I will see you in the next video. Bye.